Hello, welcome to Soul Care in Real Life. We're hoping that this space will be a space where we can have thoughtful and grounded conversations about faith, about work, about spirituality, leaderships, our relationships, talk about doubt, talk about hope, and it's going to be hosted by me. I am Brian Sturtz, and I'm a board certified chaplain. Spent time in the trauma room. I've spent time in pediatrics. I have ecology, so I like to explore spiritual depth and faith and how those things kind of connect in our complex realities. So, soul care in real life isn't about removing spirituality to somewhere over there, but instead exploring just what it is to have faith, to have spirituality in our hospital rooms, in our meeting places at work, around our kitchen tables. So that's what soul care in real life, the heart of it, is going to be about. It's just going to be about offering something that's not hurried, but instead something that is steady, a space to sort of breathe things that matters most. And so we're going to be welcoming additions just to explore what does it mean to have faith and spirituality in real life? What does it look like to take care of our souls in the midst of the complex realities that we face? So I hope that you will listen and look forward to hearing from you, and I hope some food for thought amidst the lives that we were. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Soul Care in Real Life. Today we have Meghan Muller with us. She is the CEO of the Oklahoma City Homeless Alliance, and she's also has a master's degree in social work, and she's doing some amazing work, offering all kinds of things from healthcare to legal aid to job opportunities for the unhoused. And so, Meghan, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you so much. And I'd like to start off by just asking, what was it about, I don't know, doing what you do that kind of got you into that? What, I don't know, well, you were sitting around one day and like, I'd like to really work with the homeless one day. What got you into this?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today. So I think my story is probably not that different than a lot of people who are in this field, in that I feel like I kind of found it by accident or it found me. So I actually was teaching. I graduated from college with my undergrad with a degree in Spanish. That was also kind of an accident. I tried lots of different majors, and just kept taking Spanish classes and kind of accidentally got a Spanish degree. And then don't know exactly what you do with a Spanish degree except for teach Spanish. And so I did that. I was 21 years old, having accidentally gotten this Spanish degree, and I went to teach, and I loved my students, but pretty quickly realized that that was not it for me, that was not my end-all be-all passion. And so I started looking into graduate programs while I was teaching, and I really remember finding social work and reading about social work and thinking, I cannot believe that this is a job. I can't believe someone would pay me to do this. This is what I want to do. And so went back to school, got my master's in social work. And I actually did my internship at the Homeless Alliance. So I
Okay.
was just a little grad student intern. I think thought I was going to save the world and fell in love with the work. I fell in love with the culture of the organization. And I fell in love with the folks that we get to work with on a daily basis. I think there's some of the most resilient, creative humans that I have ever met. And it just hooked me. And 13 years later, I'm still here. So
They haven't kicked me out yet. This is
yeah,
working out great.
I keep showing up and
Well, okay. So I like the fact that you used the word love, because I think sometimes when people think about the things that they do in life, a lot of times it's not such a thing that they love,
Mhm.
or maybe it's like a not really like a passion that they have. It's more like, well, I gotta go to
Yeah.
work again, and here we go. And so I think it's pretty unique to be able to attach a love to what you do, because love is one of those just kind of like, it's like that thing that's out there. It's kind of hard to sometimes define, but you know it when you see it, you know it when you experience it. Um, so is there a part of your story of when you talk about love, is that connected to like things that you value, or like what you would consider like your faith or something that connects you to this work in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. I my organization is not faith-based, and that is intentional. I think that's an intentional choice for me. But I also feel very called to my work. I think that we all have a lot less control than we'd like to think in general. And to me, finding the Homeless Alliance, getting in when I did, I think when I first started here, we were a team of around 15. I have around 150 people on my team now. So I've been able to be here through all of that growth, which has been a huge blessing. I don't know myself without this place. I graduated grad school, got married, had kiddos, all while working here. It's just such a core piece of who I am now. So I do think it's love, you know. It's not easy being a working parent, especially with 2 little kiddos, but for me, yeah, I think that I wanna show up for my family, for my children as the best version of myself, and me doing this work is the best version of myself because it's what I'm meant to do. Um, yeah, again, so, from a faith perspective, I feel like the big important things for me as a Christian person, are love God, love others. Everything else is tertiary at best, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And and this is how I know to show up and love my community.
Oh, I think that's great. I think a lot of times, especially when people are leading things, some of the things that goes out the window is the heart. Because, the world, I mean, we all made it to kindergarten, and it didn't take too long to figure out like this is a big mean world. Like people can be mean, and people can be rude, and people can be unkind. So to continue that, to keep waking up every day like I've got a heart, I got a passion for this, I have a love for these people, I have a love for that. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's a good thing, and I bet that the people that are around you pick up on that. uh,
I
I bet the
certainly
people
hope
around you
so.
feel that, Oh, yeah, I'm sure that they do. Yeah, how could they not,
Yeah.
If it
Yeah.
affects everything around you, Uh,
Yeah.
so what sustains you? I mean, I would imagine that working in the field that you find yourself in is not the easiest thing to do. Uh, a lot of complicated problems, a lot of complicated issues, and just a whole range of things. I would imagine just kind of just stuff that goes on, and it can be very hard, I would imagine. So, for you, what sustains you in this work? Like, what sustains you, like waking up every day and like,
Yeah.
here we go, like we're gonna
Yeah.
do this thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, something you said earlier, really kind of resonated with me here for this answer too, I think. And that's like, I let myself feel my feelings. I am a human, I have emotions. I think I might have more emotions than lots of people. Like, I'm an emotional being.
Yeah,
Um, but for me, it's really important to let myself feel, um, and, I think that that's how it's kind of my barometer for, like, how I'm doing as a person in the world. You know, I think that things that I see on a daily basis should make us sad as humans. We should feel sad to see our neighbors suffering. Um, and so I let myself feel those things. I think the day that I don't feel right, the day that I can walk away from my job without feeling, the sense of urgency or again, just kind of the sadness about being confronted daily with so much human despair, like, that's the day that I'll know I'm no longer right for this work, you know? So for me, it's really important, like I said, to just feel my feelings. Everyone that I work with has seen me cry at work. And I think that's okay, you know? Again, I think that that's how I know that I still have something to give. Um, and then I think, we talk a lot in the field like of social work about burnout, and that's very real. Compassion fatigue is very real. And so I think, the other piece for me is I approach I approach self-care as an ethical obligation. To me, self-care is not like getting a face mask and having a massage. Self-care literally is an ethical obligation. I am obligated to make sure that I'm in a place where have something to pour out, right? I have to invest in myself so that I can invest in others. And so I really approach that as, um, you know, a key part of my professional ethics. And so I think that when I frame it that way for myself, it relieves some of the potential guilt that I think people feel when they take a day off or do something for themselves. I know that there can be like feelings of guilt associated with that. And so for me, again, I just try to remember that this is critical to me being able to continue to show up every day with a smile on my face, to stick to mission, to care for people well, whether they're people experiencing homelessness or people on my team. That starts with me. And so, yeah, that kind of simple reframing, I think, helps me stay grounded, and move through the work, with a sense of peace rather than, guilt or overwhelm.
Oh my gosh, yes. I wish a lot of workplaces were a lot more open about the discussion of self-care, because I think you're right. I think when people hear or at least my experiences, I think when people hear talk about self-care, what they think of is, "Oh, I should just go get another coffee," or "You're just being
Exactly. A
lazy,"
little treat,
or "Yeah, yeah, let me
little
go eat this
treat
candy
culture.
bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me go, maybe I should just go walk around the block." And there's so much more to it than that. To me, it's all about being reconnected, like making sure that am I connecting with myself? Am I connecting with others? Because when that's not happening, then, that's when you start to hear the word frustrated every 5 minutes, or I'm angry, or I'm hurt, or whatever. And it comes out, in angry emails, or
Yeah.
just a callousness towards others, or a disregard. It's that whole, to me, it's this bifurcated thing that a lot of workplaces have where well, it's not personal, it's just business. Really? Is it?
Yeah.
Because it seems to
Is
me like
it?
it's all personal. Is
It's
it?
where we spend most of our
Like,
time. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I'm really glad to hear that that you integrate those things and you take the time to do that. Because again, I would guarantee that the people around you see that, and they would greatly appreciate that in a leader, the ability to recognize these things like, hey, you know what? I need to I'm not feeling connected right now. My reactivity's kind of coming up here, and I'm being more reactive than connected, and being able to recognize that I think is extremely important, especially in things you deal with.
Yeah. I really try to remind myself and my team that, your 100% is not a flat line. It varies day to day. What you have to give, like the max you have to give looks like this, right? Like some days it might mean a 14-hour highly productive day where you're just on and everything's clicking. Some days, maybe you work for 6 hours and that's the max. That's your 100% that day. 100% is not a flat line. It's highly variable. And again, that's because we're humans and that's okay. And I think, again, I think we do need to give ourselves more grace to recognize what our max is and to hit that and not feel guilty when it doesn't look the same day to day.
Oh, totally, totally, totally. I don't know if you've read the book. I'm currently in the process of reading called The Last Human Job. But
I'm
if you
gonna
have
write it
not
down.
read that book, The Last Human Job, The Work of Connecting in a Disconnected World by Allison Pugh. Oh my gosh. Uh, yeah, get that book, read that. Well,
I
okay, so
will.
that gets us on to some, so that gets us off, talking about that. But, we're talking about dealing with homeless people, the unhoused. What is something that you wish that the rest of us understood about this issue? We hear about it a lot in the news. Even here in Oklahoma City recently, there was this big push to like, we're going to clean up the streets and get the homeless people off the streets and da 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 da. We hear these kind of things, but those don't seem to be like quote unquote solutions. It's just kind of like throwing things at it. So, what are some things that you think that maybe you just don't hear discussed that maybe needs to be discussed? The things that you see that impact the work that you do. What is all that for you? You think?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest, like most pervasive myths surrounding the population of people experiencing homelessness is that it's a choice or that it's a personal or moral failing on behalf of the individual. We all have individual choice, and it is certainly a factor in our circumstance. But again, I think we all have a lot less control than many of us want to accept. And I think we're all operating in such a larger context, and there are so many systems that play around us that feed into our individual circumstance. And so I think, I really wish that the general public had a better understanding of that concept, right? That again, this person experiencing homelessness, that their situation is not the result wholly of any one individual choice or circumstance. It's the result of individual choice plus, some very macro level systems, huge societal and environmental factors, generational cycles. Yeah, it's the product of all of those things. And I think that a lot of times our tendency with many social issues is to want to attribute it wholly to the individual. Because again, if I do that, then I can control whether or not that happens to me because I would never make those choices, right? So I think it's like a protection mechanism that we do just as people. But I think that it does a lot of harm because it allows us to other our fellow neighbors, right? And so yeah, again, that's something that I wish that people had a better understanding of, was just like the complex, cocktail of systems that are working together at any given time for anyone's, given circumstance or experience with homelessness.
Oh,
I think that
yeah.
I think we get that wrong a lot.
Oh, yeah, totally. I appreciate you talking about like systems and how that affects, everything else. You mentioned control. I like to say control is my favorite illusion.
Yeah.
I think I've got, I'm under control, or my kids, this person or the situation, like it's under control. And really, how can I control
Yeah.
really any of that whatsoever? Um, and yeah, and I would love to think that, oh, I wouldn't make that decision. Well, you're right. Maybe you might not make that particular decision, but you're probably just a couple of decisions away that could get you there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I appreciate also the fact that like, you're right. Like it's a lot of like issues around that get us to where we are. It's I think in my experience of being a trauma chaplain and also when I was in college, I spent a lot of time with the homeless in downtown Atlanta. Um, and getting to experience that and see that for the first time in my life, like, how did this happen? Did you just wake up one day and decide, you know what? I think I'd like to live in the woods.
Right.
And
No
that's
one
how I
that's
want to
no
live my
one's
life.
story. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. So for you then, what does the Homeless Alliance do to kind of like offer something into this, crazy situation we find ourselves in? What are some things that you guys do there?
Yeah. So, we exist to open doors for our neighbors experiencing homelessness in Oklahoma City. And our goal is to provide hope, housing, and stability. So I think we do that in lots of different ways. You kind of touched on this earlier, but there's no one like magical intervention that's going to work for every single person who's experiencing homelessness because their experiences are so unique and so individual. Um, Obviously, the solution to homelessness is a home. So housing is very core to what we do. We provide day shelter for folks in our community. And so a lot of our folks stay in various overnight shelters throughout the community, but a lot of the overnight shelters during the day close for cleaning and things like that. And so we are kind of the safe space for people to come during the day in those cases. A lot of the folks who visit us every day are experiencing what we call unsheltered homelessness, which means that they're living in an encampment, in a vehicle, some other place not meant for human habitation, other than a shelter. So we really are seeing some of the most vulnerable people in our community on a daily basis who are coming to us to get their basic needs met. And we really believe that meeting a person's basic needs can again open doors to healing and to ultimately resolving homelessness. So when we're providing something like a meal or a shower or hygiene items or pet food or pet care, to folks companion animals through our day shelter, we're doing that as a means to an end, right? So the hope is that as we're able to connect with folks, as we're able to build relationship and build trust, that we're making progress towards ultimately, again, connecting that person to a place to call home and helping them resolve their homelessness. In addition to the day shelter, we offer winter shelter. So we're actually just a few days from closing out this season. But from November 1st through March 31st, we have an overnight shelter that, again, is really designed to be crisis intervention. That facility is intended to save lives during the winter months when it's really dangerous to be sleeping outside. And so we just are wrapping up our third season with that facility, and really thankful that that exists. And again, same philosophy, saving lives, meeting needs, stepping in that moment of crisis as a means to building relationship, and ultimately ending homelessness. And then again, kind of as I mentioned earlier, the huge piece of our organization is that housing component. So we have dozens of case managers on staff who are working with people through that transition from homelessness to housing, and making sure that they not only find that place to call home, but that they're able to maintain and sustain it. So how can we provide those wraparound supports to make sure that homelessness isn't something that you experience again? One of my kind of like soapboxes, if you will, we talk a lot in the nonprofit field, and just our community, our country at large, about self-sufficiency and the importance of self-sufficiency. And I don't think we're designed to be self-sufficient beings. I think that we're meant to help each other and live in community. I think that isolation is actually a big cause of homelessness. You know, we see people who don't have social safety nets in place. That's a big piece of how this happens. And so for me, it's really important that we're not just focused on the individual, but we're looking at ways that we can connect an individual to their community. Because again, having those safety nets in place is how we ultimately prevent this. You know, if I couldn't pay for my housing this month, there are a lot of people I could call, you know, and say, "Hey, I'm in trouble. I need help." I imagine you're the same way. And ultimately, I think that's the main difference between, you know, you and me and people who are experiencing homelessness. We have that social margin, and not everyone is lucky enough to have that. And so as we're working with people through that transition, you know, helping them find out a way to kind of build their own natural supports, is such a critical piece of the work that we do.
I really like that explanation because, what does it say about the soul of a community of people that want to turn away and ignore the need of a neighbor? What does that say
Exactly.
about what does that say about us or those individuals or those people where it's just like, hey, look, sucks to be you. Sorry about that. I guess you just need to go get a job and get over yourself and see you later. Wow. Like if somebody treated you like that, you wouldn't like that, right?
Mm,
Like if
right.
your parents had told you when you were a kid, hey, look, sorry, but you're 5, and I guess you should just learn to wash your own clothes. And if you would, I guess you just have clean clothes. So if you like some clean clothes, there's the machine. You know, like,
Right.
you know, I think we disregard a lot of times in the culture especially the moment we seem to be finding ourselves, we seem to disregard greatly the power of kindness. Like none of us would be anywhere where we're supposed to be in life or doing what we're doing if somebody wouldn't have been kind, whatever that is. Kind in traffic, a kind teacher, and I don't mean nice, like, not that's a different thing, but I mean, like, kind. The difficulty of being kind, um, all those little things just help us function, but, I mean, without kindness, you can't have a livable city, you
Totally.
can't have a community that works without some kindness. So I'm glad that you're putting some kindness out there into the world. Um, just a couple of last things as we'll kind of wrap things up here, but just kind of quickly, like for you, like right now, what is something within the work that you're doing that kind of gives you hope?
Gosh, so many things. So I talk a lot about, you know, tension. And I think, you know, I leave my office every day and I drive to my lovely home with my loving family. And, you know, even in that act, there's tension, right? Because I'm existing in two different worlds. You know, I'm surrounded all day by people who don't have that. And I think I think that we just have to be able to hold multiple things. And so, you know, I'm going to give you an example from this winter. You know, being in the winter shelter over the course of that, you know, really wild snowstorm we had there in January this year, going up to our facilities, you know, I think we probably saw 500 people at the night shelter and the day shelter. You know, we were packed. There were people everywhere. And people who, for a lot of reasons, could have been really grumpy, you know? Um, it was very, very cold. People were coming in wet. They'd walked through a foot of snow to get to our facility. You know, just could have been really grumpy. And walking through the hallways, that's not what you saw, right? Everyone that I spoke to, um, was so thankful and so grateful and so gracious, you know, with us trying to manage, you know, that many people in one space is really challenging. People gave us a lot of grace and were, again, just like exceedingly kind. And so when I walked away from that experience, from that building, again, I think it's this idea that I witnessed with my own eyes so much suffering, so much despair, but what I felt was hope. And I think that, you know, there's hope in that tension, you know? Um, there's hope in the idea that, like it is hard. It can be hard to walk away from the work and to go to my home and to reconcile that. But there's hope in that tension, so I think especially right now, the last year to 18 months, um, we've faced a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty at the federal level. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding our funding. Um, that creates a lot of tension. But again, where's the hope? Where's the hope in that tension? And for me, it comes from celebrating the little wins, not just the big wins. So like my team, we actually have a team's channel called Client Wins, where every day people are just popping in and saying, so and so missed their last 3 appointments, but they showed up today. And celebrating that for the big accomplishment that it is. Hey,
Yeah.
today I moved
Yeah.
someone in after 10 years of living on the streets. This person has a place to call home. That's huge. Like, we
That's
have to
wonderful.
celebrate that. So
Yeah.
I think that we have to be okay living in the tension, and then we have to celebrate every single win.
Oh gosh, I think that's great. I think that's a wonderful note to kind of wrap things up on. I think that's great. I think celebrating those little wins, finding places in our it with your work or in the work that whatever people might be doing, looking for those little wins. It might not be the big thing, but it's what I got out of bed. You know what?
Yes.
I sent the email. I did these things, and those little things add up. And I greatly appreciate the work that you're doing here in the
Thank
Oklahoma
you.
City area. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
um,
I feel
and
very
as
lucky that I get to do this. So
oh, I think that's great. And you can tell that you really have like a great passion for what you do and a great love for the people that you serve. And just one last thing. If somebody's listening to this and they're thinking to themselves, "Hey, you know, maybe like what's one thing that I could do with this issue of homelessness, the unhoused is so big, it's so broad, but what's like maybe a step or a something that somebody could do?"
So I'll bring it back to something you said earlier. I think step one is being kind. So, we see people who are, maybe on the corner, maybe panhandling, might be experiencing homelessness. It's really easy to divert our eyes. It's really easy to look away. And I would just say, step one is look that neighbor in the eye and wave at them, acknowledge their humanity. I think there's a lot of power in that very simple gesture. It doesn't get us off the hook entirely, but it's a really good place to start, right? So start with kindness. And then I think if people are, more interested in learning about this issue, obviously they can go to our website, homelessalliance.org, follow us on social media. We try to keep people posted about policy issues, things we're advocating for on social media. So that if people are really interested in, kind of like you mentioned earlier, those real solutions, not just like the reactive solutions, they can follow along and get educated with us there.
Okay, well, that sounds great, Megan. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and to share with us all, and I wish you well. And
Thank you
we'll
so much.
thank you, Megan. Really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time. All
Of
right.
course. Thanks.